The Texas rig, Carolina rig, and wobblehead are three of the best presentations to use to catch bass right now in the spring. And in this video, we're going to give you guys advice on areas to target with these presentations, tips, modifications to help you catch bass in the spring on these lures.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to another edition of Bass Fishing Declassified, and thanks for joining us for today's video. We're going to be talking about wobblehead jigs, guys, for springtime fishing. And man, this has got to be like in my top five favorite techniques for catching springtime bass, because it works good in all three phases of the spring, which is the pre-spawn, the actual spawn time, and the post-spawn. So I'm going to go over, I'm going to show you the actual setups I like to fish in each particular part of the spring and give you guys some good tips and advice. I think it's going to add up to some good fish for you guys this spring. Okay, first of all, let's talk about the head itself. Guys, I use just the standard, the old school, the original, the Jean LaRue hard head. I think this is about as good as I've ever seen. I like the hook on it. Just seems like I got a lot of confidence in it. And the two sizes that I use are usually the 5/16 or the 7/16. If I'm fishing water depths over 10 feet, I'm usually using the 7/16, and under 10 feet, I'll use the 5/16. And I don't like a super heavy head, because I like to sort of be able to drag it and float it over the bottom. So I try to stay with the 5/16 or 7/16 for the most part. Now, I couple them up. I've got three different soft plastics that I use based upon the time of the spring. So we'll start out with pre-spawn. During the pre-spawn period, guys, I like to go larger. So I go with the Zoom Z-Craw. And this is about a 4.5 inch long bait. And I usually just do better in the pre-spawn period when the water temperature's in the 50s on a little bit larger bait on the wobblehead. But I just set it up like this, usually some type of a green pumpkin or watermelon. It's pretty large profile, and set it up like that. Now I'm going to go over the baits, and then we'll go over the areas. So bigger bait like the Z-Craw, guys, water temperatures say 50 to 58 degrees. This is my favorite one. Now, as the fish get closer to actually spawning, when you start to get like in the water temperatures in that range of like 58 to 65, guys, that's when I go to the Zoom Baby Brush Hog. A lot of guys don't use this, but there was an old man down at Grand Lake that clued me in on this about 15 years ago. He said, son, you need to use that Baby Brush Hog when those fish are getting ready to spawn. Guys, there's something about the Baby Brush Hog when those fish are actually wanting to bed. And this is just a little bit different profile. I rig it up the same way. And it's set up like that. Now, that's what I use when I feel like the majority of the fish are actually bedding. And after they're done bedding during the post-spawn, I go smaller, and I go with the Zoom Speed Craw, guys. This is a short little bait. It's about 3 inches long. And for some reason, after those fish get done spawning, I just do better on a little bit smaller profile. So that's my setup, the Zoom Speed Craw, you know, after the fish get done spawning, or after that water temperature gets above 70 degrees. Now let's talk about the areas that you want to fish on them. It's pretty simple. There's two primary areas that I fish the wobblehead in. The first one is the areas that I fish in the pre-spawn and the post-spawn both. And that is secondary points leading back into some type of a spawning area. The pre-spawn bass will stage on those secondary points, you know, for maybe several weeks before they start filtering back into the flatter cove back ends. And I'm targeting the range of anywhere between, say, 5 to 20 feet, depending upon the water clarity. Obviously, the clearer water, the deeper, dirtier the water, the shallower I'm fishing, but that 5 to 20 foot range. And then as that water temperature approaches 60 degrees, I move to the back of the flatter type spawning areas. And I'm looking for like small rock, gravel, sand, that type of stuff. And that's when I take the Baby Brush Hog on the lighter sinker, like the lighter head, like the 5/16, and I fan cast those areas that I feel like the fish are bedding in. Usually anywhere between 3 to 10 foot deep, again, depending upon the water clarity. I'll work my way, I'll start about 2/3 of the way back in those flatter coves, work my way all the way around the back end, and just sort of cast at a 45-degree angle down those spawning banks. Now, after the fish have done spawned, after the water temperatures are starting to get up in the 70s, and you feel that a lot of those fish spawn, those same bass that are spawning will move back to the same points they were on during the pre-spawn. And that's when I go, you know, to the Speed Crawl, the smaller one. And again, I'm fishing that 5 to 20 foot zone, and those same fish move back out to those secondary points to sort of recuperate after spawning before moving into the main lake. So anyway, guys, that's the main thing. In the pre-spawn, go big like the Zoom Z-Craw. Spawn time, you know, baby brush hog, speed craw after they've spawned. Stay on the flatter type areas. Like I said, even those points, the flatter points are going to be better. Think in terms of where those fish are heading to get ready to spawn and where they're heading out before they move out to deep water for the summer. So hope it helps. We'll see y'all next time.
Hey guys, Kyle Cordiana here. Today's video on bass fishing declassified. We're going to talk about springtime fishing, spawn fishing. We're going to be talking about the wobblehead, the Texas rig, and the good old ball and chain, the Carolina rig. So these are three really popular techniques during the spring. When do you use them? Pre-spawn, during the spawn, post-spawn? You could probably use them throughout the entirety of the spawn, but in my opinion, when I'm targeting pre-spawn fish, if I got to pick one of these three techniques, I'm going with the ball and chain, the Carolina rig. I'm targeting road beds that are leading back in or already back into spawning pockets. Those fish, they're on the last stage before they move up and spawn. Road beds are a fantastic spot. You can look at your Lowrance Sea maps, identify those road beds. Go drag this Carolina rig on the bottom. You want to feel a good hard bottom. You want to feel it ting, 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 ting. You can use, you know, I prefer like a 1/2 ounce weight. You could go down to a 3/8 or so if it's real shallow. I like to have about an 18-inch to 24-inch leader, pretty long leader. I like to throw a 4/0 extra wide gap hook. This is going to be a yum lizard, but I also throw the biffle bug. I love the biffle bug. You're going to see I use these for all three of these applications. The swing head, aka the biffle bug head, the biffle head. This is an 11/16 ounce. This is the color Sooner Run. This is my favorite combo, 11/16 G LaRue biffle bug head with the Sooner Run color. You can turn right around and rig that Texas rigged. You can do all three of these techniques with one rod if you'd like. If you're going to just pick one rod, it's going to depend on the height of you as an angler, but anywhere from a 7-foot to a 7/6 medium heavy or heavy. It's all preference, it's all hard, it's all about what rod model you choose. A lot of times those are different. I throw mine on a 7/6. This is a 7/6 medium heavy Kistler Z-Bone. I throw them all on 17-pound Sea Garden VisX fluorocarbon. I keep it real simple, but you can do all that on one rod if you'd like. Again, I'm going to use the Carolina rig during the pre-spawn, dragging road beds. During the spawn, out of these three, I'm going to the Texas rig biffle bug. I'm probably going to throw it on anywhere from a 1/8 ounce to a 3/8 ounce peg tungsten weight. This is a Trocar. This is the Pro V bin, the TK133 4/0. You can go up to a 5/0 too, but a 4/0 or a 5/0 is going to work really good with your creature bait. I love it on the G LaRue biffle bug. And then on the swing head, to me, I love throwing this pre-spawn and post-spawn, not so much during the spawn because you've got a big heavy head. You're basically treating this just like a crankbait. You're throwing it out, letting it sink to bottom. You're fishing those long points or secondary points that have a really good hard bottom, and you want to feel it ting, 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 ting. So your rod tips down, you're just throwing it at the bottom, slow reeling it, letting it ting, 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 ting along the bottom. And that is a good way to catch those fish feeding up on crawfish. This is a really good crawfish pattern, so if your lake has crawfish, you definitely want to implement the G LaRue biffle bug in that. Go with those three techniques around the spring and the spawn, and you're going to catch more fish, I promise you. Good luck and have fun out there.
Okay guys, I'm about to talk about the Texas rig, and I'm going to go over when to use a peg here, as you see here, to peg your weights, and when to use the ring on this. Like right here is a Gamakatsu EWG with a ring, so I'm going to go over both of those. Let's first though talk about pegging your weights. So for me, when I like to not peg my weight, like I said, I have gone guys years where I've pegged the weight every time I've fished, but in the last year I have tried some situations where I've not pegged the weight. And the first situation I'm going to share is I've learned from Matt Steffen, who's a member of our team. He has his own channel. I learned this from him and talking from him, as he is a great Florida fisherman, fishes a lot of grass, and so I got this from him, used it this spring, and caught a lot of fish. Actually, February on, I've used this and caught it. So let's say you're swimming a worm over grass flats, or you're fishing a pond with grass, lake with grass. It could be deep grass, shallow grass, okay? Right here is the Big Bite Baits Tour swim worm. You guys have heard about a lot of different types of swimming worms, the Zoom swimming worm, the Gary Yamamoto swimming Senko. So let's say you're swimming a worm over the grass flats, and you know there's those holes in the grass. If your weight is pegged with this worm, the weight's going to take it down right away. Well, if it's not pegged, that weight will actually go down and then your worm will float right there. And sometimes them fish want a slower, actually in their face presentation, as you guys know, with the wacky rig or just Texas rigging weightless, okay? So that's a good situation that I've learned fishing those grass flats with those hoes where not pegging your weight will get you extra bites. Another piece of cover that I do not like to peg my weights on is cypress trees, okay? Sometimes them fish are not all the way on the roots of them cypress trees. Well, cypress trees can be in some depth of the water, so when that weight is dropping, those soft plastics could be floating right there, or if you're bringing them over the roots or a branch, okay? Now there's a time, guys, where it doesn't matter. You can have the pegged weight. I've done it too, but just to share with you that experience on pegging and not pegging. Now guys, when I want to peg my weights, okay, is let's say I'm flipping bushes. In the spring, there's going to be a time where you're flipping bushes. I like to have my weights pegged because there's so many different branches, so much cover you can go through. So if that weight is, you know, expanding from your lure as it's going through it, you might get bit, and it's just having more separation from your weight to your line, to your rod, to your reel, to where you cannot potentially set the hook on them fish, okay? So if I'm fishing flooded bushes, I am going to have my weight pegged, or let's say I'm fishing a brush pile, I'm gonna have my weight pegged. Now guys, let's talk about the ring on the hooks right here. As I mentioned earlier, this is the Gamakatsu EWG ring, okay? What the ring does, guys, is give it that more of that wobble head action, that motion that, you know, we mentioned earlier on Randy's part of the video. So right here, it gives you that wobble head action. So when I like to actually use the ring, okay, when I'm using a Texas rig right now, like I said, so when I like to use the ring, and one recent trip that I've learned, and like I said, I have these pieces of cover in my backyard, but a trip I took down to Texas when I took some high school kids and we fished Caddo Lake, was fishing these around cypress trees. So what this does around them cypress trees, like I said, it gives it another action. It gets that bait to move a little bit. As you see right here, this is the Toad Thumper Craw Gilly. This is one of the lures I've used in the past couple weeks since this came out. I've caught some fish off cypress trees with it. I know you can Carolina rig this, and so some other lures, guys. I love to fish with this EWG ring hook. This is the Big Bite Baits Fighting Frog. This was pulled out of my boat. Not sure you can see them teeth marks, but these dudes have. So guys, if I'm fishing just straight grass, flipping grass, I'm just going to keep the normal EWG hook without the ring. You know, just because if you are flipping grass and it's going through that grass, okay, and like I said, let's say it's thick grass, you know, it moving around might, you know, get in the way of a fish, you know, coming after it and hitting it, like as you just see right there. I know you see my fist and it moving. So if I'm fishing grass or a thicker cover, I want that hook to be more straight, so when it does hit it, that fish might be able to get a good grab of it. Like I said, I just started fishing these the past couple months, and so I'm going to give them more of a test. But I noticed when I was fishing grass, just flipping grass here on one of my local lakes, I was missing a lot of fish, and that's just what my thought was, is that maybe when it was going up and around the grass, those fish were going, and just it was moving and giving me a chance, like I said, to miss those fish. So if you want to learn more about this ring hook right here, go to Matt's channel, check that video out if you've not seen it. But hey guys, let us know in a comment, what is your favorite rig, the Carolina rig, Texas rig, or the wobble head?